Okay, everyone, let's make a door. All right, so we're going to start by making a new folder here. New folder, and I'm going to call this door. Big surprise there. And inside of that, we're going to simply create a new blueprint class of type actor. So we'll select blueprint class, and we're going to just choose this option, actor. Here, I'm just going to name it BP_door. Okay, so let's remember how to do this now. We're going to open up that blueprint, and that will get docked up here for now. At least that's the way I prefer doing it. Okay, so as a child of the default scene root, we want to add a static mesh. Okay, so I just hit the add button, and we're going to choose static mesh in this case. I can name this door. You could technically name it, keep on hitting the microphone, I apologize for that. You could technically name it, for heaven's sake, anything you want, but I spelled that wrong, so I'm just going to delete that last R. So we've got the door. Just by naming it door, however, that doesn't mean that we have any static mesh in particular chosen. There is a door that comes in starter content, so if I search, I'm sure it will be easy to find. SM_door, and there you have it, okay? And the pivot is where we would want it to be, right? And we're looking at this from the side. As a matter of fact, I can tell that X is facing forward and Y is heading in that direction, so that looks good to me. All right, so the next thing we're going to need as a child of the default scene group, the default scene root, I beg your pardon, but not as a child of the door, because we don't want what we're about to add, which is a trigger box. We don't want it to go along for the ride when the door opens and closes. We want that to stay put. So before making the trigger box, select the default scene root so it will be a sibling to the door rather than a child of the door. So we'll go ahead and add, and I'll just type box, and we'll get a box collision, okay? And you can see that it is not parented by the door, it's parented by the default scene root, and that's exactly what we want. So we'll select the box, and I'm just going to sort of center it here as best I can. Now you can see that that's not exactly centerable, so I'm going to reduce my snapping size, at least for translation mode, and get it right about centered as best I can, right about there. Now we're going to scale it, and I like to make this fairly forgiving so that if our character walks up to this, they don't have to get too close, because if they got this close and the door were to open, it would open right into the character. So I want to make sure that the character doesn't have to get super duper close, okay? So we can compile and save, and if you recall, this particular door mesh does not come with collision. So what we can do while the door mesh is highlighted in the blueprint is I can browse to that static mesh just by hitting this browser icon here. And this is the door, which we can double click to open in the static mesh editor. And with that door, I will just add a box simplified collision just so that I can't walk through it. And we're going to have to save it that way and close it, okay? So now if I were to put the blueprint into the level, let's say here or wherever, just make sure that that's locked to the ground. Oops. I meant to hit end and I hit delete by mistake. So that's locked to the ground. I first want to make sure that I can't just walk through the door, right? So, okay, so that's exactly what I would want, okay? I could rotate that 180 degrees if I wanted the doorknob to be on the other side, but, that's up to you. Okay, and of course that trigger box is visible as soon as you're not in play mode, but it will disappear when you go into play. There is a way to keep it visible, so if any of you are curious about how to keep that visible while you are setting up your level and then disable it later, the visibility of this can be made to stay on while you're playing, but you probably don't want it there for the rest of time. And if anybody wants to see how that would work, just let me know. I'm happy to do that for you, okay? So here in the door blueprint, which you'll see is still docked, most of the events are going to come from that trigger box. So we're going to go to the event graph, and we can delete these courtesy nodes. And on the box collision, I will right-click, add event, add on component, begin overlap. This would be a good place to do our cast. So we're going to cast to BP underscore third person character, like so. And into the object wildcard pin, that's just going to be whatever other actor overlapped that collision box. And it's going to check, is that other actor a BP third-person character? And if it is, then the cast will succeed. And if it's not, the cast will fail. While I have a reference to my third-person character, this is a good opportunity to right-click that pin and promote it to a variable so that we save that reference. And you could rename this if you want to. I think I do want to, so I'll call this Slayer character reference. Okay, because that makes sense to me. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is we have to add a timeline. To specify the duration over which we want that door to open. And it's going to go like this. Now, the sound effects that I have on this computer, unfortunately, are not the same ones that we recorded in class. And I did import them, but it would behoove me right now to check on the duration of the longest one. The door open squeak, that looks like it is... Does it say what the... Yeah, it's basically a little over 3 seconds, but 3 seconds is good enough for me. So I'm going to make the timeline a 3-second timeline. To do that, I'm going to double-click on the... what's this part of the thing called? It's called the... I forgot what that's called. It has a name, but the top of it. And to make a new track, we're going to simply click the plus track button. And we need a float value because we're only going to be affecting the rotation on the Z value. That axis on its own is just a float. So I'll add a float track, and I'm going to make sure that that's fully highlighted in type of 3 and then hit enter. So now I know that my maximum duration here is 3 seconds. Right-click near the beginning and add a key. Round the time off to 0 and set the value to 0. Keep it at 0. Over here, right-click, add another key, round the time off to 3, which is the end of the timeline, and set the value to 1. Now, hit the zoom to fit horizontal and zoom to fit vertical, and you can see now your entire curve is right there. However, this is linear, and it might feel a little bit too stiff, in my opinion. So what you can do is to turn that into more of a, like a ease in, ease out type of curve. To do that, highlight one of the 2 keyframes, and it doesn't matter which one you highlight first, and then shift-click the other one. Now we can right-click on either one and change this from linear. Okay, change it from linear to auto. And that's going to give you a nice ease in, ease out type of shape, which oftentimes is going to feel a lot more natural than a linear curve for certain things like doors. Okay, so now don't close the blueprint, but you can close the timeline. Okay, for now we are finished using that timeline. Okay, the next thing we want to do is we want to set the relative rotation of the door. So I'll bring the door mesh into the blueprint graph, into the event graph, and I'm going to type set relative rotation. not location and rotation, just relative rotation. Now, we need access to only the z value. And remember, rotation is a vector, so it's got x, y, and z. Now, if I only want to access the z parameter, all three of these floats are wrapped up into what's called a structure or struct. And when that is the case, we can hover over the pin, right-click, and choose Split Struct Pin, like this. Now I have access to the new rotation, just on the z-axis or the y or the x, depending on what I needed to rotate. Now, if I were to connect this directly to the new rotation, the door would rotate, but it would only rotate whatever the value range is here. It would rotate 3 degrees. No, I want this to, it would rotate 1 degree, right? This axis is the value, this axis is the time. So over 3 seconds, it would rotate 1 degree. No, I want it to rotate more like 270 degrees. So we can close the timeline, and we're going to do a lerp, a linear interpolate. So what we're going to do is we're going to lerp from 0, which is its current location, its current relative location, let's say, and up to 120 degrees. It's a little bit more than halfway open. And if I connect this float track to the alpha, it's going to take 3 seconds for it to move from this value to this value. And then I can connect that to the new rotation z value. Let's straighten things out a little bit here so it's a little bit more readable. I don't know how crazy that drives you, but it drives a lot of people crazy. And we want to make sure that we connect the update execution pin there, okay? And again, try to make a little bit of room so that we don't have a whole bunch of wires crossing and things that make the blueprint harder to read. Okay, so that's looking pretty good so far. And then we need a end overlap event, again, from this box collision. So what we're going to do is right-click, add event, add on component end overlap. Now, I don't have to cast again. If you did, it would still work, but it's also wasteful. Casts are, relatively speaking, they are performance intensive and will burden your computer. There's no need to cast again because we already have the player character reference, which I can drag into the scene and use the get player character reference. All I need to do now is to make sure that the other actor on end overlap is the same as this character reference. To do that, we'll pull off other actor and type the equal sign twice, equal, equal. This gives us what's called an equal Boolean, and I can connect the character reference to B. So if the other actor is equivalent to the player character, then because this is a Boolean node, it will return true. So when we are in a true-false situation for flow control, the next thing we're going to need is a branch, which we can search for. But since it's a node that we use very, very often, there's a cool shortcut for it, and you could probably predict what it is. Hold down the letter B and left-click, and we get a branch. When this is true, I can satisfy the condition, and then only when this is true will the rest of the code flow from the true box, okay? So from here, what we can do is we can go into reverse, okay? And let's see how things are going right now. I hope I haven't overlooked anything, and we'll find out, okay? So my player start is right here. It doesn't look like I'm overlapping, but I'll get a little bit farther away. Oops, I'm grabbing the wrong gizmo tool. Okay, so now I'm sure I'm not overlapping, but if I go into play, that door is opening over 3 seconds. It's going to stay open until I end overlap in either direction. So if I go through, it's going to close. If I go up to it from this way, it should open. And if I go through this way, it should close, okay? So we'll hook up the sound to that in just a little while, but the whole point here is to make like a little building in this assignment. So let's get rid of all this extra geometry just by selecting it. Be careful and delete all of the extraneous stuff that's in here that just represented the playground previously. None of this is really needed for what we're going to do next. You could also do this from the World Outliner if you wanted to, but I think this is a little easier because I can see what I'm deleting, okay? So let's get rid of this stuff. You might as well leave the floor and the walls. That's okay for now, okay? And let's start by building out our little floor plan here. And I'm going to go into Content, Starter Content, Architecture, and I'm going to look for the 400 by 400 floor. And I'll start with that. We want to make sure that grid snapping is, surface snapping is turned on, and that our grid, let's say, is set to the default. It's very, very useful if you keep everything grid aligned. And I can see that that's not quite aligned with the grid, so I'm going to reduce the grid resolution. Okay, that looks better. That looks like it's on the grid. And that was flickering. That flickering phenomenon is called Z-fighting. And oops, I meant to hit end. I realized that this was partially underground. So I lifted it up and I wanted to hit end to snap it exactly to the floor. Okay, so that's a pretty small area there. So what I'll do is I will hold down Alt or Option and, Control Z. With that highlighted, if I hold down Option or Alt, I should be able to make a copy of it. Okay, and I want that to meet up with the previous piece, and if I hit Escape, you should not see a seam there. If you don't see a seam, I would say that's a pretty good sign. So let's take both of these pieces now and hold down Alt or Option and make an even larger floor. Let's see. Just want to close that space. And if I deselect that, by clicking elsewhere, if I see no seam, that's a good sign. Let's see, we'll get all 4 of these. I'm shift-clicking them right now to make a cumulative selection, holding down Alt, and now I can bring them this way. Okay, so we have a little bit of a floor here. Maybe I could do even one more. Okay, like that. And that looks pretty not bad so far. It wouldn't be so bad if we had a little bit more variety in this house. So I'm going to select maybe this many of these pieces and hold down Alt or Option and bring them this way. Okay, that looks pretty good. And that could be just some other room. And maybe even, let me get this door just sort of out of the way for the moment as we decide exactly how we're going to want this floor plan to be. Right now, I'm just making it up as I go along. But if you had true architectural floor plans that you were working with, you could simply, do what you're doing according to what those floor plan instructions are. Okay, so here we've got a pretty good start, all right? Now, we need to have an entranceway to this dwelling, and I don't really know what I want. I know that I'm going to want to use this door 400 by 400. I haven't decided quite yet where I want it. So maybe I'm going to do some of the window walls first. And to keep everything symmetrical, we're going to use wall window 400 by 400. And maybe I'll place my first one here. And I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. And I want to make sure that I'm careful to use this one and not this one because it has different proportions. These are all going to line up together a lot better if we continue to use the same portions. Okay, I want to make sure that that's lined up nicely. And if I get really close, I can see that my snapping interval is not small enough. So let's go here to 1. The more precise you are, the easier this is going to be in the long run. Okay, so do I want another one of these? Hey, maybe. So I'll just option drag like this. Let's see, did I leave a seam? No, that looks pretty good. Okay. Now, should I put a door here, or should maybe the door be here, or maybe should I have a couple of, another set of this to just give a little bit more geometry to the house? In this case, I might want to turn this up a little bit more so it's not so freehand. Make it easier for me to see. Oops. It'll make it easier for me to see when they're really snapped together. I don't know what happened there. It looks like the 3 of those wouldn't highlight at the same time, but no biggie. So I'll hit escape. Okay, I see a seam there. So that means that my alignment is a little off. So let's set this back down to 1. Just want to get it exactly right. Escape. Nope, just a little bit more. Right there. Okay, so there's no seam anymore. And I don't know, maybe the door can be over here someplace. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'll get the wall door and I'll put it right around here, okay? And of course, I'm going to want to match up the alignment like I did before. All of this stuff is going on top of this floor, which is going to be like our fake foundation. And I want to make sure that I'm looking for any gaps because we don't want any light leaks. Okay. And I think those, oh, nope, there's still a little bit of space that I can see there. So maybe one more click or so. Was that one too many? Maybe not. Maybe I want that to line up with the back of that wall. So it's unfortunate that the pivot's way over there. But you know what? If you need to move the pivot, here's a trick. If I hold down Alt or Option and then hold down my middle mouse button, you can temporarily or permanently change where the pivot is located. Now, this is temporary, but if I right-click this and I choose Pivot Offset, let's see, it's in here someplace. Pivot, set as Pivot Offset, and that'll make it stay there on that side until I want to change it again. Okay, so here's the pivot for that. Easier to see, I think. Might be a little bit low, so let's hold down Alt, pull that up. It was below the ground. I think I overdid it. So we'll get it sort of over here, and then, okay. And you can always change the pivot offset to really wherever you want it to be. Okay, so yeah, that looks asymmetrical to me. So I think I'm going to go with my original plan and do it like this. And I'm going to hit undo because I think that one was too small a snapping size and I want to be as precise as I can. Okay, so that looks much better. The next thing that I'm going to need, if this is going to be a door frame, of course, is going to be the door frame itself. So back in starter content under props, we'll find the door frame. And it's not going to come in scaled exactly right. So start by rotating it. If you're following along exactly as I'm doing here, I'm going to need to rotate this 90 degrees so that it will line up. And we're going to try to fit that into position as best we can. And it's not going to be perfect because remember, the scale of the opening there and the scale of the door frame itself unfortunately, are not exactly the same. So we're going to have to at least scale the width on this. So let's try that. That's too much. So our scaling options need to be set to a smaller value, which is fine. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so now I want to check this kind of from the side and make sure, you see how it's protruding a lot on that side and not enough on that side. I like to get it pretty centered so that it's not favoring one side more than the other. Still looks like it's favoring this side a little bit more. Or whatever you think looks best or is most like an actual door. Do most of them come out like this? Well, maybe we'll align the back of this with the wall. Let's see, how's that? Okay, not so bad. I usually go halfway, but right now this is not bothering me so much, and I think I kind of like it. I like to see the door frame on the outside. Okay, the next step, because we already have this working door, is to get this fit into position with respect to the door frame. Remember, this is an entire blueprint actor. I suppose at this point we could decide which side we wanted the doorknob to be on. So I'll just arbitrarily put it on that side. And then move this forward and try to fit it into position and make sure, is that angle right? Oh, it's a shadow that was playing a optical illusion on me. We don't want one sunk into the foundation. We want to pay attention to that lower line until it touches, right? Until it touches. Once you see it go dotted, that means it's clipping through, okay? So let's bring this farther forward, and I can now see that my door is too narrow, right? And we're going to move it this way just a touch, I think. It might have been too much. And scale it so that it is wider, because it only scales in that direction, because if the pivot were in the middle, it would scale in both directions, but since the pivot is on the side, then we're just going to have to make our best estimate here. So I'll scale it maybe one more unit. That's too much. My scaling is, this is scaling, right? No, that's rotation. And this is scaling. I'll make it even smaller. And I want to make sure that I get close enough to check for light leaks. Oops, I think I just moved the wrong actor. Okay, so let me select the door again. And making sure that it's properly centered and lined up as being the front door. Okay, so we could play test this right now if we wanted to, because that door blueprint should still be working. So if this is outside, I should be able to walk up to this and have it open. I should be able to walk away and have it close. I should have it open again. I should be able to enter the dwelling and have it close behind me. Okay? So far, so great. Okay, let's continue making this little environment here, and then we'll add the sound for the door and maybe even play with the lights inside a little bit. I'm liking the window walls. I don't think I want any just like plain walls. I'm going to go ahead and continue reusing these window wall meshes. So I'll get another one and put it over here, and again rotate that. This rotation snapping on, yes. So I want that to be 90 degrees. And I'm going to line it up with the door wall that is right next to it, like so. And we want to make sure that it's lined up in every way that it needs to be. Getting really close here. And I've got a small snapping interval just to make sure. It might even be the smallest it goes. And if it's not, it's pretty close. Okay? So that you can see is now snapping together very, very perfectly so that there aren't any seams or light leaks. So far, so good. So we might as well continue along these lines. I'll take another one of these. And again, I'm option dragging to make a copy. And let's make this rotated by 90 degrees. And again, fit it into position. Get real close. Make sure. That looks good. And then, of course, there's a gap there. So that's going to have to come in this direction a little bit until we seal that gap. I'll hit escape, make sure that I don't see a seam. And so far, so good. And now I can select this again. Option drag. Maybe that's going to be like a living room or something. That looks good. And down here, I might have room for one more. I wonder if it should just be a plain wall or if it should, you know what, I like windows. So let's just continue using window walls. Knowing that if I go back into starter content, if I wanted to use just like the regular wall with no windows, I do have that option, okay? Now you can see here that overshoots by a lot. And if I were to scale this narrower, it would make the window narrower than others. So in this case, I'll make an exception. I'm going to allow it to overlap the other mesh by a little bit. And that is not necessarily the worst possible thing to do, but we usually try to avoid that if possible because sometimes it causes a flickering artifact there, which is known as Z-fighting. So if that happens to you, maybe reconsider the floor plan a little bit so that doesn't have to happen. Okay, so now at this point, I would consider us inside the house, right? So do we want this back wall to be more window walls? I don't know, maybe. So, but if I'm going to see very much, I'm going to have to delete that wall. So a little bit of danger there. And I'll just grab another one of these. Remember, I used option drag for that, rotating it 90 degrees, or maybe I'll do it like so. Oop, that was only 80. 10 more, 90. Okay, and bring this in so that it aligns with our floor just right. I think right there. And then we'll bring this to the edge where it's going to meet up with that last wall. You see, I think I went one step too far. There we go. And we'll make more of these. Okay. Now, I have room for two more of them, so I'm going to select them both, I think, by holding down Shift. At this time, when I Alt or Option drag, I'm going to hit Alt and Shift at the same time. The nice thing about this is that it makes the copy, but it also takes you along for the ride. And I like that a lot. So, I mean, that's not mandatory, but it's just another little trick that you can use as a quality of life improvement. Okay. So over here, do I have room for yet another one? Maybe. Let's see. Is that just right? I mean, everything here was 400 by 400. So we have that same overshoot problem that we had on the other side. And I don't want to rescale this because I don't want the windows to be different sizes. So in this case, I'm making the executive decision to allow that mesh overlap. And it's not causing any Z-fighting at the moment, although right here I see something I didn't want to see. It's going to necessitate a little more, I think, a little bit more finessing. Move that over just a little bit more that way. Move this over just a little bit more this way. Move this a little bit this way. And I want to make sure that they're all in alignment down here. That looks good. Okay, and remember these were overlapping, so now this can come over because I ended up moving it. And again, just closely double check that you're lined up with the foundation here at the end. I'm sorry, my mouse is moving so fast. Let me slow that down. And by the way, I did that by holding down my right mouse button and using my center scroll wheel. That's a nice little trick for adjusting your camera speed. Okay, I can see this is hanging over, so that's not right. And let's see if that affected anything else downstream. I don't think so. I think it might have been just that one piece of wall. Oh, wait, what's this? That doesn't look right. Looks right to there. And I think it might be all of these. This one, let me see. This one is out of alignment with this one, looks like, but just barely, unless my eyes are playing tricks on me. Yeah, that doesn't look quite right. So this one, I think, still needs to come back maybe 1 unit, maybe even less in this direction. But that doesn't align with the baseboard anymore. So this one, I think, is more accurate. And this one might actually be less accurate. So let's see. You see, there is like a microscopic difference here. I get in there. So I'm going to set the snapping size to, let me see. I might have no choice because this doesn't have fractional sizes. I might have no choice but to turn it off and eyeball it for this one. That looks good. Where's the gizmo here? You can see that that's not exactly lined up. So, I prefer to do everything to the grid, but, every once in a while, things just don't align exactly perfectly. And sometimes you have to do this by hand. So, let's see. Oh, is that an extra mesh? Or is that just where they overlapped on purpose? That might be where they overlapped on purpose. So, let's see. Select that. And I'm going to eyeball this. I'm freehanding this right now. But you can see where the seam disappears. Oh, there's also a little glitch right there, so I went a little bit too far. Little bit more. Okay, I think that's okay. There's a seam here, which means I might be able to scoot this over just a little bit. Created a seam on the other side, so I've got to split the difference, kinda. Yeah, that still is not perfect. There we go. Nope, too much. A little bit more. A lot harder to do when this is freehand. Okay. And let's see. That looks pretty perfect. That looks pretty good. This one, I don't know. There's almost like a little hint of a seam there. So I'm going to try to take this guy and see if it's just a matter of alignment like this. So if I get really, really in there, let's see. Okay, so let's get this moved forward the smallest amount that we can until the two align. That's, I think, okay. The seam is still there, but that might just be due to their distance from one another. So let's take this and we'll move it in this direction a little bit. That should take care of the seam, but it creates the same problem over here. So let's see. Was there some overshoot here, or did I overlap these? I don't remember. No, I think I might have to get them both over there just a little bit. Okay. And here is the front of the house. Don't want any seams there. And we always try to make sure that we eliminate any light leaks which become evident, especially when you hit escape, which can become evident while you're doing this. So that looks okay. Let me just move this over to the left a little bit. That take care of it? Not quite. Is this misaligned front to back? Yeah, it looks that way. So let's move this back a little bit. And that's closer. Is that seam gone? Yeah, that seam looks gone to me. Okay, so let's look at it from this perspective. And we'll move this. I can see it's too far forward by a little bit. That seam is gone. I don't care if a little bit of the foundation shows. I mean, after all, it does on my actual house. So I can't be too picky about that. Okay, so I can see that there's a little step right there. Get closer. Yeah. Why do I still see that seam? Are they still not exactly aligned? It's hard to tell. Maybe just by a skosh. That could, yep, that's all it was. Tiny, tiny bit. Okay, sorry about the nitpicking, but I just want this to look really good. By the time we're done with it, you'll be glad that you spent the time doing this, probably. Okay, so we've got this wall, which is now obviously jutting out too much. Okay, and here, I can see that there's a step there also, so we don't want that to be the case. How is that step? Is it a kind of a vertical thing? No, it isn't. Okay, so I guess I'll just try to move that over a little bit more. Get really, really close down here near the foundation. And see if I can detect any. Okay, yeah. This thing is not flush with the ground. I can tell that already. So, unfortunately, the pivot point is way over there. So maybe I'll hold down Alt. Oops. Maybe I'll hold down Alt and the middle mouse button is what I meant to do. And bring the pivot point. On a second, I've got to get a better vantage. Okay, so it's this wall. There's the pivot. I'm going to hold down Alt or Option, middle mouse button, bring it over here, right click on it, and we're going to go to offset, or pivot, and set as pivot offset. Okay. So now I've got this. Oh, wait, did I do the wrong one? I hope not. So let's try that again. Alt, middle mouse button, add that like so, and I'm going to right click, pivot, set as pivot offset. Okay, this might make our lives easier in getting this lined up. So let's see, how close are we? And remember, I noticed that it wasn't quite all the way, I don't know, it wasn't quite all the way something. So let's continue working on that. Now that the pivot is a little bit more sensible, in a more sensible location. Okay, so I don't see a seam, but I do see I do see a seam. Okay, so still have a little bit more work to do on this one. That's snapped to that boundary and to the left a little bit. A little bit more to go. To the left a little bit more. Yep, they're still offset in depth. Yeah, so sometimes you really have to work hard at getting these things lined up. So I'm going to have to work a little tiny bit more, just the smallest amount forward there. And now it's too much. Let me bring this closer again. Alt, middle mouse button. Just so I can see it in relationship to that other wall. Okay, that might be a lot closer, although still not perfect. They're still a little bit spaced from one another. Make sure that's highlighted. Let's see, I forgot which one was messed up. It was that one right there. Okay, so a little more to the left. And now the seam is still there. Oh, gosh. That's embarrassing. Now it's gone, but now we've got an air gap here. And I think we could probably fix that just by selecting the door and the door frame and just wiggling it a little bit more into place right here. Okay, because we didn't really change the size of anything. We just changed the translation of it. Okay, so that door just needs to move over a little bit. Okay, and so now we've got this bit of a problem right here. And I suppose what we could do with very little harm probably might be to scale this in the right direction. Okay, so we need the scaling tool. And that looks like it's being scaled outward from the center, if I'm not misjudging it. Hold on. Wrong piece of mesh there. Okay. And that snapping interval is too large because I just want it to meet up and it's overshooting. So let's go to the scaling options, and we're already on the smallest one. So again, I might have to freehand this. And move it over. And then we might have to redo the placement of the door. So let's see, G, still a little seam right there. That's okay. Pull it over this way a little bit. That's okay. We can make up for it over here. I'm going to recenter the door. Oops. What I meant to do there is select the door and the door frame together so that I could move them as one. That seems okay. So let's get maybe all of these and close up that seam there. Move the door again. Okay, so you can see how this goes. We try to pay attention for how it affects the work you've done so far. I'm going to recheck everything. No seam. This one is too far forward, so it appears. I'm going to make that a line. And I can see that it needs to come over that way a bit. That way a bit more. Okay, so there's still a seam, and it might be due to, yeah, this one's a little bit too far forward. Still not quite in alignment. I wish they had even smaller snapping increments, because that would make life a little bit easier for us. Okay, that's not so bad, and the seam disappeared. That's good. And you can see that these are not aligned anymore. How's that? Okay, that's better. Let's see if anything has been disrupted over here. This all still looks good. And I mean, once we're inside this house, frankly, we're not going to need that wall. We're not going to need that wall. I'm trying to delete it, and I don't know why it's not deleting. So let's try it this way. Hey, wall. Delete. Okay, there you go. This is called a text render. We can select and delete that also. Ooh, I see a little gap there. Let's fix that. Okay, that looks good. And I think we've closed the gap there. I just want to be doubly sure. Okay, that's fine. And maybe this would be a good place for like a garage door or something, but we'll have to bring that in on another day because I don't have that mesh in here. Okay, so we'll make a copy of these, try to line them up. Gonna have a lot of windows, that'll be fine. And that's okay, and that's gonna be fine. And let's take 3 of these and copy them. Actually, let's take 4 of them and copy them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold down Alt or Option, and we'll do the other side of the house there. And so far, I think we've been on the inside of the foundation. So let's just stay consistent there. I'm going to make sure that there's not any kind of obvious misalignment. And I can tell that there is a little bit of overhang there. Still a little bit. And remember, that was 3 walls that were in alignment, so I want to do them, or 4, excuse me, so I'd probably rather do them all together. Or maybe not. This is just getting a little tiny bit annoying. Yeah, when you're freehanding, it's definitely not as easy. So let's see now. Do I have any gaps? Not there, but there's a tiny one right here. And that is probably due to this being too far forward. This is a little bit too far back, but just by like a tiny, tiny microscopic amount. And I can see a little bit of a gap in there. So we don't want that because that can represent a light leak. And light leaks can cause problems. Just so. I pushed it in a little bit too much. Still. I'm looking right here. I don't know if you can see there's a little step right there. And I don't like it. Okay. Yeah, sometimes the wireframe can make it difficult to quite judge with super accuracy. So I think that these are just a tiny bit offset also. So that one can go in just the smallest amount, I think. That might have been too much. Yeah, because I know I did two notches of it. So this one will come out. That was also 2, right about there. Okay, so that lines up. I still see a seam. Or do I? No, that was just temporary. Okay, that's good. And we're going to have to, of course, put some kind of walls over here. So what I suppose I could do is I could take these walls and Option Shift, which takes me along for the ride, get them on the other side of the building. And make sure that those are okay. So hit Escape. I think I might have an extra one. Okay, so yeah, this one I think is superfluous. That one. Okay, so we'll get rid of it. It's one too many. Okay, so now there's a little gap, so we'll have to address that. Yeah, these need to be pushed in a little bit. Sometimes it takes those little lines a little bit of time to disappear. Okay, I see something here. And maybe what I'll do here is I'll take all of these and these two and move them a little bit more in that direction. Get rid of that seam. Hasn't disrupted anything else, so that's a good sign. This is not the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, so maybe I'll take these, at least from the inside, and do more like that. See if there's any offset that remains. That looks better. And is there a step there? Yeah, a tiny one. That'll disappear. Okay. And somehow we ended up with a little bit too much over here. Let's get this door more inside, like we had it. And I think it could have still a tiny bit of a light gap there, a light leak. So I'm moving it over still a little bit more. Okay, no light leak anymore. That looks good. All right, so let's figure out what's causing this now. Could it be that all three of these are a little bit too far in that direction? Looks like they are overlapping that other wall a little bit. So let's just bring that over until it's touching both sides. And if it's not, then maybe these walls have to come in a little bit. It looks like I left one out, so I'll have to go back and fix that one. I thought I grabbed all of them. We good? Close. One bare notch. Nope. One more. Okay. The seam is gone. Okay, I think we're making some pretty good progress here. So let's just close off. Let's close off this empty space, and then we'll make a roof, and we'll call it there. Even though I'll probably make an upper level eventually with like a staircase or something. Make this a much cooler environment. Okay. That looks like it came together okay. And is that there or not? What do we have? Little step. Okay, so this one is going to have to come out just the smallest amount. That was too much. That was too much the other way. Okay, and these, I think, have to come out just a little bit more, because I see that little step right there, right? Just the smallest smidgen. Hey, I lost track. So if I don't want this to lose track, here's a trick. If I shift select multiple meshes, if I hit Control or Command G, that will group them together so that they all work as one, at least while they're grouped. Okay, and if I reselect them, they'll continue to be grouped. It's too much. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And as soon as I'm ready to ungroup them, I can just select them, and then I can hit Shift-G, and now they're individual again. Okay, so you can group things together or not when you're doing level design like this. Okay, so now we've got something here that is going to be potentially a good starting point for a dwelling. All right, and what I could do at this point if I wanted to is simply to select all of the different components that comprise the floor, all of these meshes. See if I'm missing anything from the outside. I want to make sure that I get all of them. And I bet you can anticipate what this is going to become in a moment. It's going to be almost like a Irving to Bachman style house, with that artistic sensibility, which I like very much, by the way. Irving to Bachman is a famous Michigan architect, and I'm friends with his family. So, yeah, do yourself a favor and learn about Irving to Bachman if you like architecture. Some of the most interesting architecture, residential architecture I've ever seen in my life, so I like it a lot. So let's group all these floor pieces, maybe make our lives a little bit easier. I think I almost have everything. Okay, I want to make sure that I've selected them all first. Now I'll hit Control G, and then I'll Option drag or Alt drag. And hey, the floor can also be a roof. And we can screw around with that as much as we want. Okay? All right, that's probably good enough for now, I'm thinking. Got about the same amount of overhang around the house. Maybe not in that direction. Come over a tiny bit more. That's too much. Want to make it about the same on both sides. Okay, that's good enough for now. All right. So if I want my player to spawn right here, first I want to make sure that there's not already a player start in my level. So I'm going to search, and there is one. So let's delete that and start with our player start here. Excuse me once more. I just had a bite to eat, so excuse me for being gross. Okay, so I just rotated it so that it's like looking more towards the house. I'm going to rotate that a little bit more so it's looking more at the door. Oh, it's interesting. Oh yeah. Okay, so it was in world rotation mode. And this arrow is the x-axis, so got that pointed way too far. Let's see. Yeah, that'll be good. So let's raise this up and hit end. Make sure that I'm snapped to the ground. When I hit play, hey, look at this, I'm home. Let's walk over here and get into the front door. And you will notice that once we're inside, it's very dark in here, right? And the reason is that we haven't lit the interior yet. But I can show you that if you are inside, one of the things that you could do is rotate the sun at this point, Control L, and you can really affect how the sun rays are kind of beaming into the room and from what direction. This is a very good way to set up your initial lighting scenario based on whatever time of day you think you're trying to simulate, and also what creates the mood you're looking for. So I kind of like, yeah, remember this can always be changed too, okay? So there we are, and we've got a little bit of a house going on. So play again. See what it's like inside. Very, very cool. It might be nice to separate this room off as like a den or a living room or something like that. Maybe have a kitchen over here. So yeah, let's work on the interior a little bit. Now, it's not very well lit in here at the moment, so temporarily, and I mean it, temporarily, feel free to just drag in a point light. And you can think of that as a temporary work light, just so that you can kind of see while you're working. This is not really professionally lit. It's just something that will enable you to see what you're doing while you're doing it. So let's go back into Starter Content Architecture, and we're going to get the 400 by 400 wall, and we'll put one in there. I'm going to rotate that 90 degrees, but this time I'm going to make sure that that's scale, but I want to make sure that I can have the rotation on the grid so that can be exactly 90 degrees. And maybe what I'll do is right here next to the front door, we can have kind of like a partition for this room. I like that idea. So maybe that's where people watch TV and stuff. little seam. Might have to freehand this one as well, so I'll turn my snapping off for location. Let's get a closer vantage point on that. I've got to slow my camera down. Let's see what the H is actually happening. Okay, I can see. This wall needs to still come forward just the tiniest amount, and there we go. When the seam disappears, I think that's a pretty good sign that you've gotten it right. Okay, so do you think we need another one? So like when you come in the front door, okay, here's your den. Yeah, I think that another one of these might be useful. So let's turn on grid snapping again and Option Shift, and I'll drag this over here. And that way we can get into this part of the house through this way. So maybe over here, this is going to be, oh, these are all grouped. So let's hit Shift-G to ungroup them. And I'm going to make this area into sort of a kitchen. So for now, I'm going to temporarily change the material on maybe... Let me just deselect these. Okay, maybe just on these tiles right here, I'll change the material to something from starter content that we're going to replace later. So let's look into materials and find something that can be okay as a temporary floor material for the kitchen. I don't know, should it be wood or something with like panels? Let's see. Which one of these is nicer? They both kind of suck, to be honest with you. Ultimately, I think this will work temporarily for now. I'm definitely going to replace this with something else that is better later when we learn more about materials. And in here, maybe we want something to be carpet. Now, you can get carpet for free if you go to Quixel Bridge. So we'll go to the window menu, and from there we want to find Quixel Bridge. And it may, new home for Megascans. Megascans are moving to Fab. I told you this was going to happen. So this is, it's coming in October. So we still have a little time. Okay, so remember the Epic Games launcher, I think, is going away in favor of Fab. And we're going to all have to get used to that when the time comes. So you may have to sign in here. It looks like I'm already signed in. And I'll just search for carpet. And we'll find something that is just good enough for now. Plush carpet, I don't care. This is, that looked like it had potential for the kitchen, but no, I think I'm going to find something even better ultimately for the kitchen. So I'm just going to plop this material on each one of these meshes that makes the floor to just separate this from the kitchen. Excuse me. And we'll fix this. We'll make better carpet for this later. What is that? Plush carpet. Maybe I haven't downloaded this into my project yet, so let's dock this window. It's behaving a little bit unpredictably. So let's click on that. And you can set the quality that you want. Let's say high quality. Highest quality is 8K. High quality is 4K. Medium quality is 2K. Low quality is 1K. So let's go for high quality here. Doesn't have to be the highest. Most people's monitors aren't even 8K. So if you chose 8K, that would be wasted resources for most people's computers. After it's been downloaded, you can hit add. Yeah, I forgot to add it to my project first. So here is the material instance. And now I can just drop that onto each floor tile that represents this room. That is to say, if I wanted carpet. This is not all there is to know about materials, by the way. There's a lot more to know about materials, and I'd like to be able to teach certain just general Unreal Engine concepts to you, in addition to sound, as we go through this class, just to make all your work look better. If it looks better, it will sound better, and if it sounds better, it will look better, and all these things conspire together to create a more convincing sort of atmosphere, okay? So for the time being, we'll just add a few point lights throughout the space here, just so that we can see what we're doing. So put one over here, and then we can option drag, just so that we have some spaced around here as we continue decorating the place. Okay? Doesn't have to be too many. All of these, every one of them is going to end up being deleted later when we properly light this interior. Let's put it right here, maybe in between. Awesome. Let's see what this feels like to play now. Let's go back into play mode. And we're outside. Maybe down below us is going to be grass or, little driveway or whatever. We can enter the house. And we can be in our house. We can decorate the interior here with furniture. And maybe there's going to be a grand piano over here. And maybe there's going to be a little dining room sort of someplace. Yeah, it seems like an awfully big room. We might want to divide this into kitchen, dining room, and then like a rec room or I don't know, whatever you want. And if we were ambitious, we could even make an upper floor with a staircase that you could climb. All right, and when I'm ready to leave, goodbye. All right. Now, the only thing missing here are the sounds. And like I said, I accidentally recorded those sounds on the Plymouth Rock computer. But I do have some sounds here. That's so... I don't like this one. This is just a reverse of this one, and it sounds not so great. So I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to make a couple of sound cues here. So we'll say audio, sound cue. I'm going to call this door open _ cue, and I'll do another one, audio, sound cue, door close cue. Don't forget you can't have spaces, okay, in most asset types like this. Okay, so let's do the door open cue first. And I know that I want that to start with the doorknob. So I'll pull that wave player up into here. So there's the doorknob. Maybe I'll follow that with a modulator so it doesn't have to be the same exact pitch or volume every time it's used. Okay, and then after that, we're going to want to have the squeak. So the door opens squeak. Pull that into the sound cue as well. And I think what I might need to do before I plug that into my modulator, where is it? Right there, is to delay it a little bit, okay, until after this has expired. So let's just delay that by a tiny bit, maybe roughly a half a second. So I'll click on the delay node and I'll make the min and max 0.5 so that they're the same, 0.5. And let me see if there's anything else that I need in this cue. Door open. What is in there? Is the doorknob in there? Yeah, okay. So now what I need is to highlight just these two and bring in a mixer so that they connect together, and I'll connect it there. So let's play the cue. Okay, and I think maybe that delay is too much, so we'll go 0.125, 0.125. It's a much shorter duration. Maybe that'll sound better. Okay, that's pretty not bad. And we're going to save that cue, and then we're going to do another cue for the door closing. Let's see, audio, sound cue, we'll say, oh wait, what did I do here? Door open cue? I already made the door close cue. Or did I? Looks like I made it twice. So this one over here is going to go away. This one, it looks like I never got around to putting any sounds in there, okay? So the door close, I guess, is going to start with just the door closing sound, which is a squeak, I think, and a thump at the end. Let me just play the node. Oh, no, that's just the sound. Oh, I remember what we did. We took the door squeak, and we just pitched it down a little bit, okay? So what we're going to do is this one is going to have to be delayed so that it happens at the end of this. So I think we're going to do maybe a delay of perhaps 2.5 or 2.75, something like that. And this one is, they're both going to get modulators. And I'm going to take the squeak, just so that it doesn't sound the same as the opening squeak, and use the modulator to pitch it down a little bit. So let's go to 0.75 for that, for pitch min and max, 0.75. And I'll just play the node, that one. Yeah, that'll work. That'll work just fine. Okay, so we'll take these two modulators, marquee select them, and bring in a mixer so that they both connect. Connect that to the final output. Okay, and here's the cue. Okay, and then there's the door closed right here. Let's see. Doesn't sound loud enough to me, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the input volume on index 0, and I might set that a lot louder. Oh, I see the problem here. Let's see. This plays, gets delayed by, I think, not enough time. So let's try 3.25 and try it again. Yeah, I want it to be at the tail end of this door squeak here. So let's continue. remember I pitched it down, so it's going to be a little bit longer in duration. Okay. And this one here, what we might have to do is just to control the duration of this. For now, though, I'm going to set it to the same value as I have it in the open queue, just so that I can judge the timing. Okay, so that door open squeak is being delayed. Oh, I forgot. Pitch shifted? No. Okay, so we're going to reset the pitch shift on the door squeak. So we'll set that to 1 and 1. And this will allow us to judge the delay time for that closing sound a little bit better. Okay, and here's the delay. Boy, it seems like that is longer than I expect it to be. So the door squeak, let me browse to that and find door close cue. Door squeak is 3 seconds. So if this happens at 3 seconds, hold on. Sorry, my computer screen just went blank for a second, and I have to wait that out. It usually just happens spontaneously, and I just have to deal with it. Okay, so this is the squeak. I just make sure that this hasn't been pitch shifted anywhere. It's been made louder, and we'll set the pitch to 1 and 1. Oh no, not for this modulator. I'm sorry, that one. Delay. That's gonna start, I think, at 3.01. And this, that's just been adjusted in volume. Okay, so I'll delay that a little bit more for now. It's going to be a little bit out of time, I think. Let's set that at 4. Why does that sound earlier? That's so strange. Oh, because they're not set the same. 3 and 3. It's giving me a range. I should have caught that. I'm sorry. Okay, that's a little bit better. So let's set that to 2.9 and 2.9. And play the cue. Okay, I think I can stand that. So let's hit save and go back to our door blueprint. Okay? So what we want to do is we want to play those sounds. Probably we want to do the first one here and the other one here. So let's use play sound at location. And the location is going to be get actor location. And, oh, that's the wrong node, okay? You got to watch out for this. If you type it too quickly, they're going to accidentally click the wrong one. Get actor location. And this is the one you want, okay? This one is highlighted first. So if you're in a hurry and you type get actor location, you press enter, you'll get this, and that's wrong. This is the one that you want. Get actor location. And we can double dip on this for the play sound at location here. Because we are in the door blueprint. Yeah, it can be the same location, so we can double dip on that. And this is going to be door open. And this one is going to be close. like so. Okay, compile and save. And let's see what we have. This will be nicer also when you have your footsteps on there. This is I think it's a new project, so I don't have any footsteps on the character. Okay, that's not so bad. The only thing I don't love is on the open. It wasn't faded out particularly well. You can hear that sort of chopping off. Now, there are ways to deal with that inside of Unreal Engine, but I'm not sure if I want to open up a can of worms right now. This is the sort of thing, I beg your pardon, that I would probably fix at the asset level as opposed to trying to make it work in Unreal. But I suppose I can try maybe to, let's see, maybe I can try to do that. Door open, I'm going to try to use an enveloper. And the enveloper, let's see, got to select that, of course. It has a volume curve and a pitch curve. So let's take the squeak and add an enveloper. Envelopers can change volume or pitch over time. So maybe if I want this to fade out at the end, I can just add another keyframe and drag it down in level to 0, but starting at a certain time. Let's see what that sounds like. Wait a second. No. I might need more than one keyframe here. Hold on a second. Put a keyframe here so that can stay at full volume for as long as it needs to. I can say value 0. Oops, that was a mistake. So anyway, this is going to be value 0. And then the key in the middle, I want that to be whatever this is. Okay, so that's probably going to be 1. So I'll add a key, and I'll bring that to just where I want that to start fading out. Let's see how that sounds. Volume curve. What's happening there? I should be able to hear the whole thing. The modulator, the delay. It's only delaying a little bit. The enveloper, it could be. Let me see the entire curve. I think I can. That might have happened too soon. Yeah, I don't tend to use this too much. Let me see. Could I zoom out because I have to remember that this was a certain duration. I think it was over 3 seconds. So let's go back to the enveloper and zoom out until I can see the entire duration, which might have been part of the problem. Okay, so that's 0.3. Yeah, I've got to zoom way farther out, so none of these keys are any good. Let's delete those. Make sure I can still hear it. Okay, so I'll zoom out until I can see 3 seconds worth at least. Okay, it's going to be in between there and there. And at the beginning, I'll make a key at time 0. And the value is going to be 1. Enter, okay? And as I move to, let's say, here, I'll do another key. Add key. And I don't want it to start fading out yet. I want to get maybe to 3 seconds, and it's going to be the same value. Add another key here, and then by the time it's 3 seconds, I can have that faded out to a value of 0. And this should be a value of 1. This should be a value of 1. And this should be a value of 0. Let's zoom to fit. Okay, so that looks like it could be right. It's a little bit better. Let's have that linger a little bit longer before it fades out. Hopefully you're getting the idea of how this enveloper works. But like I say, this is the sort of thing that I would be more inclined to fix at the asset level. Yeah. It's already over, I think. For now, we know just accept that. Okay, you can hear that fading out now, I assume. And let's see how noticeable it is when we enter the house. Not bad. While we're outside, we can go into the starter content audio directory. And there's some sound cues that we might want to put out here. For example, there's the starter background cue, which has some light wind and birds in the background. Starter background cue. If you want it to just play 2D, just drag it in there anywhere. And when you go into play, that's what you have. If you want, you could use the starter music cue. Drag that into the level. Imagine how that would sound like escapes. Okay, so both of those sound effects are too loud. The music and the starter background cue. You can find them in your world outliner. So the music, let's set the volume we'll select it first, and we'll set the volume multiplier to something like 0.5, so it's half as loud. And the starter background cue, maybe we'll do, I don't know, 0.6. Let's see if that's a better blend. Your footsteps will make them a lot better. And now I'm on the side of the railing, the carpet. Get me in here. Not too shabby, okay? So if you can get this far, You know what else? This floor here, if you wanted to, you could use a starter content material on there. So go into starter content, maybe find the poured concrete material, like that. Let it compile. That's not so bad. Or if you'd rather have it be something like grass, you can put some grass on there. It's not the greatest grass you're gonna ever see. Or whatever you think looks really good for your environment for now. We're going to do way, way better than this with materials coming up. So, but feel free to just put something other than the default grid material there. That rust didn't look so bad. Although I am colorblind, so I wouldn't trust me. But yeah, that one didn't look so terrible. And if you want to, you can also put materials on these other surfaces, right? So let's suppose I wanted this house to be made out of one of the things that I have here that's available. Well, what would it be? There's a lot of better things that we can have for houses. But let's use some sort of brick material. Okay? And that's not the worst thing I've ever seen for the time being. So I can just put that on each piece. Likewise, I can select a mesh, and here where it says material element 1, I can just drag that there, and it's the same thing. So just to give this a uniform look for now, we might as well decorate it. Boom, 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 boom. Soon we're going to be learning how to make our own better materials than this, using that Quixel bridge that we've discussed. So I wonder what this looks like, just out of curiosity. I don't know, use whatever you like. I want this to be uniform though for now. I'm not being too picky because I know I'm going to replace this material anyway. Somehow oh no, there was a shadow. It looked like the window was smaller. It's a shadow from inside. And maybe we'll make the roof out of something else too. Oh, wrong one. Is this one? Okay. And I don't know. Maybe the foundation should be poured concrete. But then again, yeah, I might want to do something to this side of the room. Ooh, the ceramic tile might be good for the kitchen. So let's try that for now. All of this will be replaced. This ain't nothing compared to other materials that you're going to be able to find for Unreal. But it gives us a start. Oops, looks like I forgot that. And we're going to put little windows. Yeah, that one is a little bit narrower. I'm going to have to figure out what happened there. But we can fit actual windows into there with glass materials and everything so that it looks really nice. And that looks like it's missing a material. So let's do that. And it's starting to feel a lot more homey. And then on the ceiling, and for now, the ceiling and the roof are going to be sort of the same. So until we make that a double-sided mesh, which I'll also show you how to do in the coming weeks. So maybe we'll use this cobblestone. Oh, that's pretty gaudy. Oh. Yeah. Concrete tiles. All right. I can stand that for now. And again, starter content materials are what they are. They're starter content, just for you to get kind of used to using materials. But these are not really professional materials, and we're going to do a lot better than this. But for now, we want at least something to vibe off of. All right, so let's continue. This will also look the same from outside right now because these meshes are just, they're the same material on each face, the top, the bottom, and the sides. But we can also fix that, so we can put different materials on the top and bottom and sides if we want to. This is starting to look a little bit modern. Then if you want to, after you do this, you can look on the Epic Marketplace if you want to, or you can look on Quixel Bridge if you want to, and find other interesting meshes that maybe you can bring into here to start decorating the place a little bit, making it a little bit more realistic in that sense, okay? So I thought I had carpet in here, didn't I? Content, I don't know what happened. I thought I had carpet in here. Megascan, surfaces, carpet. I did have carpet in here. So let me fix that. Didn't I? I thought I did. Right? Kitchen, and then more carpet. Okay. So I think this is looking pretty good as a start. And we also have things that are operational. Hopefully you're going to have your Foley. We've got some outdoor sound effects. We can have some pushes out here. We'll place windows with good-looking glass. Probably replace the door with a better-looking door. And hey, what? Look at this. You live here. This is pretty cool. Now, it is possible, because this is all we have, to jump off the side and fall to your death. So just be careful until we create more of a landscape that you can run away from your house. For the time being, though, I think that we've got something that is serviceable as a little dwelling. It's not done yet. Of course, we've got to put stuff on the inside. It's got to be properly lit. There should be furniture and TV sets and a bedroom and maybe even an upper floor with a staircase. There's all sorts of things that we could do. But what I would like very much is if by next week you can have something similar to this with footsteps included. So you might as well just build from the last project that you finished and then just add something like this to it, all right? So we want to have a functional door with sound. I'll package up those sounds in a zip file for you and post them. I think it's going to have to be tomorrow. But that's okay, and now we've got something that is a little environment. Let's play again. Let's walk around our house. Oh, I'm so proud of my little property. We'll have to fix that. And that's because I can't put different materials on the sides, cut your faces. We're going to learn how to do that anyway. But functioning door, which we program, that's really something we program. It just happened to be blueprint and not some other computerable. But if you can perceive a little bit of tiling on the carpet, I'll show you how to fix that as well. And we have yet to put our windows. And also, for that matter, I'm hearing like the birds in the wind. I don't know if you noticed that. I can hear the birds and wind on the inside, but I shouldn't be able to, right? I can only hear them when I'm outside. When I go inside, in the darkness, I shouldn't really hear all the stuff that's outside anymore. I should only hear sounds that would be typical of indoors, maybe a TV set playing, or some music playing, or something like that. And that is controlled with something called audio volumes. And we're going to be learning that as well in this course, okay? We can use audio volumes not only to determine how much sound from outside can be heard inside, but how much sound from inside can be heard outside. And we can also use audio volumes to define reverberant zones in case different rooms are supposed to have different sounding acoustics. And that's a lot of fun to do as well. And that's coming up. So try to get this far, please. And like I say, I will go ahead and post those sound effects that you're going to need in a separate announcement. Okay? Thank you for your time. And I hope you study this and follow along and do something similar. And I'll be checking up on you on Monday. Okay? Have a great night. Bye-bye.